minutes for last week, but we have the chief in today, and I'd like to have him come up and, if he would.
I brought, this is Dennis, he's the ALS coordinator. If there was any questions specific to the paramedics, he can.
Sure.
Oh,
Sometimes
great.
I don't always have the answers, so Dennis knows.
Yeah,
Pull up a chair.
Have you got your newest budget sheet?
Yes, it's the same as the original the second request.
This is for ambulance.
Yeah, we're doing ambulance.
I guess what we were looking for would be the cost and the associated receipts to go into that. Other financing sources part of the sheet we're using here, so that we could actually see the difference, because there is some revenue difference between your options.
Yes, so after talking, I think Plan B is the best plan for the town. It will increase our medic coverage to 24 hours a day,
Right.
which is where we lose the most revenue, because if we have to call for an intercept, we have to pay.
Yep.
Like Rutland is $350, Paxton is $250 or $300, Holden is $300. When we don't have a paramedic available, we have an ambulance call that requires a paramedic. If we only have 2 EMTs, we have to call for the paramedic from another community.
Yep, right.
They get into our ambulance and then they send us a bill. We pay them whether we get paid for the call or not. And sometimes with the billing, it could take 5 to 6 months, 3+ months before we receive the money that we bill for the call. Most of those towns are billing us within that warrant cycle.
Yep.
So they're getting their money, right away.
Because the thing is that what we showed on our sheet for 2016, actual ambulance receipts was 280,000. And what I was thinking that we would do would be find out what we think 2017 would be. And then on your other plan where there would be no change, we could probably expect that kind of receipts for 2018. And I thought with your Plan B, that we could increase the revenue about, at some amount. You had, on one of your reports here, you talked about 75,000. So
Yes.
we're trying to make sure we could see the differences in our sheet by putting in those numbers.
I can tell you the year-to-date billing revenue we've received so far.
Oh, that would be good.
That's good.
Well, for April. We haven't.
That's all
done it
right,
yet.
so April,
Through April. Okay.
If you give me a minute, I'll find it.
well,
Okay.
that's 10 months.
Yeah. So that'll be a good.
Now, Bobby, that
Yes.
figure you're gonna give us, does that include past revenues that have been recovered by this new billing company?
It doesn't break it down. Every month I get a report from the billing company, I have to call if I need a breakdown like that. They don't send that to me. They just show
So that
me.
figure you give us, that could be ambulance calls that went out a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yep, yes. It will include whatever they've received.
But if that carries over time, is
What
that
calls that
ongoing
we're
issue?
billing out now,
Yeah,
we
it
probably
will.
won't receive on the flip side for a year and a half,
So it's normal for
potentially.
it to come in that way?
You can stick to the list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's always a fight with the insurance companies, especially with motor vehicle accidents, and then they prove,
Yeah.
those usually take a while to get. If I can. So I have an April reports. internet connection. I might be able to give you February. So for July through February, we brought in 212,000, just 471. So I did an average over the last 2 years, and we average about 26,000 a month income, which is pretty consistent,
Oh, okay.
average. So if you factor in, I had it written down on my last sheet, 26,000 a month.
So that's like 300,000, 312, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was right around
Yeah.
312. We, from July to February, we billed out just shy of 500,000. We're taking in about 45% of what we're actually billing out,
Oh,
which I've called some other departments, and that seems to be average, low end of the average. But that's about average for what we're gonna bring in. For instance, in the month of November, we billed out 71,000 in receipts, and right off the bat, the insurance companies took off just about 40,000 in adjustments because of insurance contracts, and that's beyond our control.
yeah.
Currently, we have an outstanding balance of 148,000.
For billed but not paid.
Balance, right,
Yeah.
billed, paid out, and haven't been adjusted and haven't been collected upon yet. This is as of February. Starting in March, they changed the way that they send me. They went to a confidential online system, and it's not letting me
Oh,
into the website, so
Yeah.
these are just from February. I haven't received May's yet, I only have April. I've only got
okay, well, that's, it gives us some kind of number.
And I believe to date, we've used a mutual aid ambulance 54 times,
To date,
to date, as of today,
from,
January 1.
oh, January,
to-
oh, okay.
to, for the first 5 months.
So in terms of going forward with your Plan B, do you still feel that 75,000 additional is something that would be fair to put down here, Chief? That'd be the only thing I'd like to, if, whatever you feel on that.
No, it would only be a $30,000 raise, right? From last year to this year?
No,
Talking about receipts, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
talking
sorry.
about the
Oh, I'm
receipts.
sorry.
no,
Because-
I'm talking, the receipts, by going to Plan B,
Mhm.
on one of your reports, you estimated about 75,000 would, what you expected the billing to be, additional with that plan.
Right.
Does that number still seem like a reasonable number to you?
That would be if we were able to cover every call that we miss.
Oh.
Now, there are
Okay.
days where we have 2 or 3 calls, especially during the day, once our ambulance is committed to the hospital.
Right.
If we get that second call, it's hard to get a crew out. The ALS intercepts, we would pretty much get rid of, because those are the days that we have a crew, but we don't have a
Oh, I see.
paramedic. So those are the ones that we pay the $350, the $300. And then with the increased revenue from the other calls, that 75 is a very low conservative number of $350 per call.
Yeah.
Granted, some of the mutual aid ambulances are refusals. They don't need to be transported, we don't charge for refusals. So I would venture to guess it'd be probably around 50,000.
50, okay.
That's what you're billing out.
No, we'd be billing out substantially more than that.
What would you
But
bill out?
you'd get back
I don't
50,000.
know, every call would be different, so I don't, every call gets billed at a different rate, but I factored that at the 215 calls for 2016 that we didn't cover.
Yeah,
I factored in taking in a revenue of $350 per call, which gives us that 75. We'd be
Okay.
billing out potentially up to $2,000.
Oh, I
okay,
see.
that's,
Call.
all right,
Yeah,
that makes it clear.
so you could have done it the other way and said, and then 45% of the big number would have been 75.
Right,
Oh,
I just
okay.
took it call for call, and a BLS call, we start at $800.
Yeah,
Plus
Okay.
$25 per mile to whatever hospital we go to, which, you know, makes a difference in the billing. And then an ALS level call starts at $950, and depending on whatever the paramedic does for service, can go up to as high as $2,000, plus $25 per mile transport. And then the calls that we intercept with, we bill the call 100%. So if the paramedic from Rutland gets in our ambulance and they do everything that they could do and we bill 2,000, we may or may not get that, but we then physically pay Rutland the $350 for the paramedic.
yeah,
Now, if the insurance or whatever, that patient pays nothing, we still owe Rutland that $350. And Holden's 300, Paxton's 250, and every service has a slightly different fee that they charge. So we did 35 ALS intercepts last year, where we had a call, we didn't have a paramedic, but we had 2 EMTs in the ambulance, and we needed a paramedic. So we called for an intercept 35 times at, 300, we just say $300
yeah,
per call. That was money we paid out.
yeah.
We may or may not have taken, I don't have any of that information to determine how much we would have got if we got paid for all those calls or not. It's a daunting task. And then the calls that the other towns or the primary ambulance, they don't bill us, however, we don't collect, we don't bill the patient. So those are calls that we could have billed out and made money on.
Oh, I see.
That we did not, because the other communities took the call.
So according to your projections, we would cover the additional expenses of the additional people to have the 24/7?
Currently, we have budgeted for a paramedic 20 hours per day.
Right, but I mean, if we go to Plan B, it's
So it would
24/7.
give us the extra 4 hours per day.
Right, and your projection of increases is gonna cover that additional cost or not?
Let's see what the additional cost, I think it will,
Yeah.
because
I mean,
from
just-
last year's budget of 407, we're going up to 434.
Right, right, that's right, I see what you're
I
saying.
think we-
Yeah,
We will, and so I projected that to date, on June 30th of this year, we'll make about 326 in ambulance receipts if the numbers stay continuously the same.
Now, the last sheet that we got presented to us, May 17th, the ambulance final figure was 414, 440. The one before that was 434.
that's the as-is
Yeah.
number of 414.
Maybe
That's not,
That's
that's
not Plan
not
C?
hiring C, I think it is,
That's
right?
Plan
Chief?
C, Bob?
Yes, yeah,
That 414?
yes,
And that's to leave the ambulance exactly the same as it is
Right.
today, but properly fund the increases that were put in from last year, that weren't factored into the funding.
yeah. Yeah, but that would not be the extra coverage, et cetera.
Right, that would give us
Right.
what we have
Yeah,
today.
okay,
Now, on paper, we have a paramedic 20 hours a day. It's hard to get somebody to work until 2 AM. So there's a lot of days where we're getting paramedics, but we're not getting them for the full 20 hours because those are just undesirable shift times to work. I think with the 24-hour coverage, it would be a lot more desirable to get people.
mhm,
And again, some of our medics are per diem, they have full-time fire EMS jobs. If their work tells them, we need you to come in, when they get stuck on a call late, that's their primary job, you
Yeah.
know.
right,
If their shift changes at 8 in the morning and they get an ambulance call at 7:30, that takes them 2 or 3 hours. It's 2 or 3 hours they're not coming to Berry because they're at their primary job. Likewise, if they get an overtime shift, first thing in the morning, somebody calls out sick and they get a shift for overtime, they're not gonna give up 24 hours of overtime that come to Barry for
Right.
considerably less money.
Any other questions?
Not really, yes. As far as the data goes, you're collecting the data now, so we'll know more
Yes.
next year. But, I mean, the number of calls from midnight till, say, 6, something like that, you don't have any idea what that number is?
I can find out. I don't have it on me. I don't have that on me, no.
No, that's okay.
I mean, it's from the, it's less than we do during the day. I mean,
Yeah.
our busiest time is between 8 in the morning and 6 at night. I will say 6 in the morning, that 12-hour period of the day.
Right.
Seems like every morning at 7, 8 o'clock, we seem to get a call first thing in the morning.
But Bob, that Plan B with the paramedic,
Yes.
you said you're gonna go at 24/7. So how many hours, you're gonna have 2 full-time paramedics?
That was a proposal, yes.
So I'm just trying to figure out how many hours and what would their hours be roughly, have you thought about? Because you just said that. they have
42 hours per week.
Excuse me?
42 hours per week.
42 hours a week
Yep.
for 2 of them. So how many shifts do you have to fill with a paramedic?
The remaining 2 42 hours. There'd be 4 42-hour per week shifts.
Yeah.
So you would have 2 full-time, then you could fill, then you fill the other 2 with per diem. So it would be rotating.
How do you
shifts.
think that would work out? Because you just stated that, these people don't, it's hard to get them because you're not giving them enough hours, so.
Right, so it would work out much better for us because they would have that desirable time staffing. I don't know if necessarily we need to go with 2 full-time. I definitely feel we should have at least 1. And then we have the EMS coordinator position. I would like to see that full-time person be the EMS coordinator, and then we have the continuity of having one person who's always in, this is their primary job. They can oversee the ordering of the paramedic supplies, the licensing, the narcotics. Right now, Dennis does that as the ALS coordinator. His full-time job's at the power plant. We're very lucky, he's able to do some of that stuff from work. I'm on the phone with him quite a bit at his regular job where he's making phone calls to the state and making sure the drugs get ordered from the hospital and changed out that way.
So if you had 1 full-time paramedic, 8 hours a day,
No, 24 hours, 1. So we would have 1 24-hour medic, and then the 3 24-hour shifts to fill. So we'd still have the 4 42-hour shifts,
wait a second, I'm confused. 1 paramedic would work what hours?
24 hours a day.
1 guy's gonna work 24 hours a day,
Yes.
so he doesn't sleep or nothing.
Yeah, they do.
Of course they sleep.
Well, so he's gonna work how many hours a week?
42 hours. It's a rotating
2
42
shifts.
hours. Yes, 2 shifts per week,
So then you're gonna have all the other shifts to fill with a paramedic.
which would be 3. There's 4 groups. 1 on, 3 off, which equals 42 hours per week, average.
So do you think you can get paramedics to come in and fill in?
Yes. I could have a line of paramedics right now filling those shifts.
Is that because the 24-hour shift is desirable to that?
Because that's what every fire and EMS works, and that's,
Yeah.
even private EMS
Yeah.
has gone to that, and that's kind of taking away from the fire service, so, yes.
So it becomes more desirable to offer them that
That's what-
overnight shift type thing?
That's what people, it doesn't necessarily have to be broken into a full 24 hours. You could do
12.
2 12-hour
whatever.
shifts or a 10-hour and a 14. That's the other very common shift that is out there.
It's tough to fill the night shift and you leave at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
So a guy comes in at, say, tonight Brian goes home at 9, and you got a guy come in from 9 to 2 in the morning. So he comes here for 5 hours.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys live in Worcester, wherever, to drive an hour or half an hour to come here for 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's not really desirable. It's hard to fill those shifts.
Makes sense.
Whereas if you have the overnight and they can stay till 6 in the morning, then it's a desirable shift.
I've had those hospital hours before, and it's rough,
Yeah.
to stop at 2 in the morning.
Now, I just just wanna get my head straight. The Plan B, is that where the extra person is on the fire department? Or is that a different,
So on Plan B, we would have a paramedic in the station 24 hours a day. But now we have
Yeah.
one, it's 20 hours
Yeah.
per day. We would maintain the full-time EMT at his 40 hours per week. He
Yeah.
would work his 4 10-hour days, and then on the fire one, I went back to the 24-hour per week position. So he would work 1 10-hour day. So currently, the full-time EMT works Monday through Thursday. And then
Yeah.
on Friday, we don't have anybody. The paramedic works alone. So the part-time person would work on that 10-hour.
okay, that's the.
So that would give us 5 days a week,
Right,
Monday through Friday. 10 hours a day, we'd have an EMT and then the paramedic in the station.
okay.
After the EMT goes home, we would have the on-call stipends like,
Right.
like we do now when the people get there. And I dropped it down a little bit from the $5 they currently get now, and just made it, rather than an hourly stipend, I just made it a one number. It's a 14-hour, you get $50 for that 14
Yeah.
hours, which works out to be a little more than $4 an hour if you did it that way.
Okay, now, does that, the fellow that's the part-time fire guy, is
Yes.
that the guy that would be doing the firework also, chief?
Yep,
Yeah,
yeah, he can
okay.
do that.
Because that was one of the other issues I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Normally, we look at the fire department as simply a cost, but really, the inspections and stuff, it turns out to be money goes in the magic pot in the sky here, okay, for all
Correct.
your funds.
Correct.
So I was trying to get my arms around the difference. There's a couple differences proposed for next year. One, the fee going from 25 to 50.
Yep.
But with the extra person there, a certain period of time who can do inspections and do the schools, we were looking at actual increase in revenues to the town associated with that. The grant was $3,400, you were saying, to do the schools. But when you were looking at your inspections, are the amount of inspections that you do annually, how does that come about? Are you able to determine ahead of time what inspections you do? Or a lot of it just happens? Because in some of your statistics, you quoted the increases from 15 to 16. Is that kind of increase you would expect to see over the next few years also, or not? I couldn't figure that out.
I look back on an average year, we take in $5,000 in permit fees, and we charge
Right.
the 25.
Right.
So I just figured that if we double it, we'll, we bring in 10,000
Yeah.
versus 5,000. A lot of the permits, I can't guarantee you how many next year, I mean.
We don't
on
know. I mean, it
average,
just happens, kind of.
If somebody sells their house, they need an inspection from the fire
Okay.
department. For
Okay.
every house that sells, anytime an oil tank is put in or removed, it needs an inspection, an oil burner.
Okay,
A propane tank or a propane burner also have to be inspected by the fire department.
okay.
So those just come in. If you call, I'll just say, are you at McDonald's and say, I need a propane tank installed?
Yeah,
They just call the fire department, say, we're putting in a propane tank, we need you to do the inspection. Somebody goes and does it.
okay, so it's hard to tell from one year to the next
It's
how it's gonna go.
it's rather consistent. I mean,
Yeah.
I think if you look over the last 5 years, house sales are going up compared
Yeah.
to where they were, but
Yeah.
the propane, oil, that stuff stays relatively consistent every
Yeah.
year.
Okay,
There are some inspections that are a yearly requirement that I can look and tell you next year, I know we'll do 50.
Yeah.
Transfer tanks in the back of pickup trucks and the oil trucks on the road, those require a permit every 2 years, so I can tell you that.
oh,
You know, I
okay.
know for a fact that we'll do 25 oil trucks next year.
Here we
It
go.
may change by one or
Yeah.
two if somebody gets a new truck or gets rid of the truck. but
Okay,
that's-
I'm just trying to see what kind of changes would be with this extra person, because he's sort of a helper on the ambulance side also.
Right.
They stated that he will work 10 hours on Friday,
Or the day off of the EMT, but yes, it's Friday.
because right now, the full-time EMT works 4 10-hour days, correct?
Yes.
So that's 10 hours, he's gonna work 40,
No, 24.
24. When do you, what would you expect?
And then
him
the
to
other
work?
day, it would be a day that the EMT's there, which would give us staffing of the second ambulance, if there was a second ambulance call that day, and then allow them to do the work of the, the fire prevention,
Yeah.
the safe,
But you wouldn't let him staff an ALS ambulance,
no, BLS ambulance.
so you still would have to do an intercept if it's an ALS call.
If, yes, but we would still be able to get potentially some revenue if, everything happened
Mhm.
the way it should.
Because if we run an ambulance, say, through Paxton and pick up the Paxton ALS, we get the revenue. We pay an intercept fee, but we get the revenue.
We get to bill the full call, like we had the
Right.
paramedic, but we have to tax and send us a bill for $250. Now,
Right.
we may or may not get paid from that call.
From the insurance, yeah,
Right,
or
we-
what have
We
you.
may or may not
Mhm.
collect, but we still pay taxes. But if we collect full, we, a minimum is $950. That's where it starts for an ALS level
Okay.
call, and it goes up from there. But the people also don't have to wait for Rutland or Hubbardston to come to Barry, they need an ambulance.
Everybody got that?
Yes.
God bless you, chief, is all I can say.
It's complicated.
With the juggle you're working
It
in.
is very,
The hours are
very
definitely
complicated.
complicated.
Talk to you, boss.
Yeah, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Yep, good.
Any other questions?
No.
I got a couple.
Okay,
Did you purchase the infusion pumps?
not yet,
I noticed they were still on
not
the
yet.
general ledger that came out.
There was the Fire Chiefs Association put out a posting to all the ambulance providers to hold off purchasing them because they were protesting that with the state, because it was an unfunded state mandate, which Governor Baker promised no unfunded state mandates. So they were,
Right.
the House and Senate were meeting with not only the Fire Chiefs Association, but the private EMS across the state to talk about that requirement. So they said to hold off. Last I heard, they've come up with a compromise, but the compromise is still gonna require that we're gonna have to purchase because of our location away from the hospital. They said anybody within a 30-minute transport of a hospital wouldn't need them. Unfortunately, we live far enough away, we're gonna have to
Yeah.
buy them anyway, so we were just holding off on that. So we got a firm answer that the state was gonna kick in some funding, or they were gonna say we didn't need it. But it is a requirement, so we have to, we don't have a choice.
Okay. And then the other one, there was still money left for the new ambulance. Did you say you were purchasing extra stuff
No,
to make it,
no, we spent all the money on the ambulance.
you must have just done it recently? Because the latest that Gene sent out,
For
Still
the- For the
had-
ambulance,
yeah, the new ambulance had $2,000 left in it.
uh,
You had said something about using that to upgrade it, or,
I
For
thought that
equipment
money
or
was
something?
all spent. I'll tell you in a second.
I looked at that today.
$2,091.
Yeah, it's still in that account.
Okay.
I mean, the ambulance is completely outfitted at this point, right?
Yeah.
I think we're short like a PD mate for the
A what?
PD
Sorry.
mate, it's a device we need for pediatrics to sit on the stretcher.
So would
We're
that
short
fall
one.
underneath that cost, or no?
Yeah, it's less than that, yeah.
So you could use it for that, because it's still part of outfitting the ambulance.
Yeah,
We can double check that, Rob.
Yeah.
We can go through the invoices and make sure that everything's been paid first.
yeah,
before we
because
go
that'll
spending
be
it.
Most of
something
that stuff was purchased
that could be,
Prior.
prior to
Transfer.
That was spent right at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
I noticed that on there today.
yeah, 2091.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what that is? We sold the old ambulance for more than we anticipated.
Yes.
That's exactly why
Oh,
there's
maybe
extra.
that is. Yeah.
So we were originally gonna trade the ambulance in, and then other communities expressed interest, so we put it out to municipal. and it ended up coming in higher
Ah,
than we anticipated, so that's why there's that much revenue.
yeah,
Actually, I just remembered that.
so that,
So now we.
that was an
that's just
article
that.
though, so now that's gotta be,
Nope, they could still use that
Can
to
they
outfit
still?
it, because I think the article, if I check the article, it probably said to purchase an outfit, some of that
okay,
ambulance.
yeah,
Gotta do that dollar figure.
It would still be under the dollar figure because we got better money for the ambulance trade-in. They were gonna give us, say, $9,000 and we sold it for 11. So that was kind of factored into the deal.
Yeah. So if you got more, then it should have been a surplus, which there is. But you've already purchased it for a certain amount of money that was approved at town meeting, correct?
yeah,
Yeah.
So
and
if
that was an article.
So if it's over that,
We can ask Jean. Jean would be
Yeah.
able to tell us if that's
If
okay
we,
or not.
because you sometimes have to have a vote at town meeting
right,
to
to
use that,
go over what was approved,
yeah,
that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
get at.
but Jean would know that,
Yep,
so if you
yeah, we can
check
follow
with
up on
Jean
that,
and
Rob.
that.
Maybe that will be a way to purchase what you said is missing in that ambulance.
Yeah,
We like that.
Nobody's gonna vote no to do
I have a frequent flyer that travels in the ambulance, so it's good to have those things.
Any other questions?
no, it was for the
Good,
two.
thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Chief.
Our next news sheet will have a figure, not like this one. This one was at our last meeting, was
Yeah.
414. Our, Bob said it's 434.
Yeah,
Right.
Faye will have to
Right.
change that.
We're gonna take the colors
So
out,
it'll-
which I couldn't even read.
If it would be easier, I can delete Plan C, Plan A, just put it,
Yeah,
Plan B into the,
yeah,
Boy,
that would be
really
better.
be good.
That would
I
be
Because-
just
good.
wanted to show that,
No, I'm
Yeah.
glad you did all the work.
I just wanted to show where,
Yeah,
Just
So the
kill
number
some.
that's on the sheet is incorrect?
No,
no, Plan B is correct.
no, it's correct.
Okay,
This, the
the
last sheet we
434.
got.
is correct.
No, because if you're going by the last column,
The blue one is
the purple
414.
one is 414. He's asking for 434.
Okay.
So that goes back. And then what about the fire?
Right, and we'll make the adjustment, in the,
I'll do that tomorrow.
yeah.
So what's the fire is a 228, right? The same column you do the fire.
What's total fire, Bob?
Oh, that's 228.
I think just like what they were saying is you had the 434 for Plan B.
Yes.
At that time you had the 228 for the inspector.
Right, that's still, those are still
So
the same
those are still the
numbers.
numbers, okay.
Yes.
So
That
it's
same column is where you'll find the fire and the ambulance.
Right.
So where you see the ambulance at the 434, the fire at the 228 was,
Those are what you're submitting.
Yes.
434, 510, 228, 629.
Right.
Yes.
Did you have a new sheet for us tonight?
have
I'm
them
trying to
here.
see what I have on
I
mine,
have them here.
the budgets.
Yeah.
She's talking about our worksheet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because it had changed from the last,
414, so we're back to 434, 510.
yeah,
Yes.
And 228, 629 instead of 249, 014
Yes.
on the fire.
It was, I'm sorry, what?
It's 228, 629 instead of 249, 014.
It should be 249.
Nope, it's gonna be 228.
Okay.
It's in the, it's in the Google
Yep.
Sheet budget.
Okay.
But that's gonna change our bottom line.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
the difference between those, I think it's like $300 in the column. The difference of the combined fire and
Fire.
ambulance, and then the combined fire and ambulance, depending on which version you're looking at, is like $300 more, I think. If I'm reading it right.
so the fire's gonna go to 228 or to 249?
228, 629, 66.
Okay,
Very good, sir. Thank you very much.
Worked hard. Trying to get these.
it is.
No questions?
No? Free to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks. We'll, work on that, ambulance.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that.
Okay.
No.
Thanks.
All right, have a good night.
The other things I wanted to talk about today are some of what I call the revenue values, et cetera. And I guess the free cash numbers, it's not ready yet, but it's close, I guess, huh? Okay? And I guess there's no change in the cherry sheet.
I printed out, we got an email today with an update. And what, I can't open both sheets at once. Can you tell me what the number is for the?
108,5,640.
640 is what we use.
Okay, so the Senate, looks like Senate proposal came in at 108,5,868, and the governor's 043, so it's not far off.
So the 1085 is pretty close.
Yes.
So that's a good number, okay.
Yep, kind of in the middle of
Yeah,
the governor and the Senate, so.
I guess the other number, hopefully we can get something, is a better look at the local receipts to how we've got 1.231 million, and I think we're close enough to the end of the year, it would seem that we should be able to get a better number from there somehow.
Wasn't Jean gonna give us some numbers? When was she gonna do that?
Unfortunately, Jean's been working very steadily on the free cash right now,
Yeah,
so I've been trying not to interrupt her so that we can get this free cash
yeah,
done.
yeah,
So I did talk to her today and she didn't have a chance, she was
yeah.
But anyway,
deep
those,
in doing the free cash stuff,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, I couldn't get updated numbers,
Yeah.
which
Mhm.
is fine,
Yeah,
I understand.
yeah, because when she was in, she had said she'd
Right.
get us more,
Yeah.
a little bit closer.
Yeah, she, spent all weekend working on it and this week, so she's been very busy, so maybe next week, hopefully she'll have it wrapped up.
Mhm.
I'm saying that, and maybe I'll be able to get some more numbers from her.
the other number we're hoping to get is the transfer from sewer from 75,000 more than that, okay? That's still
Yeah.
contingent on Gene coming up with it.
Yep,
We have from the transfer from the water department for that, the 32,031, that checks with the treasurer's budget, so that's a good number. The magic number of transfer from stabilization, according to the finance company CD book that we get, they're talking about 5% of operating revenue. For us, that's 5% of 10,000,003, or 515,000. We have 646,2, so we have about $130,000 quote available if we wanted to use it there.
And what account was that?
The stabilization.
stabilization.
Stabilization account.
Right.
So much you have in there total?
We have 646,
Yeah.
286. 646,000, and 515 is
What we have to have.
what we have to have is the 5%. So there's some money there to look at. I went over the police budget, and my feeling is that I'd like to put it at 610,475. And take 14,000 off of the chief's budget. That would allow the money for the sergeant being upgraded, a 9% increase in his pay for getting that step up, but would allow a much larger jump between the assistant chief and the chief. Probably sort of look like the amount of effort that it would take to go from an assistant chief to a chief. So I wanted to talk to people about that tonight.
Yeah, you just said what did you submit the police department budget at, Ted?
610,475.
That's a hell of a cut compared to the paper that's in front of me.
It's
Last one
14,000.
submitted to us was 691,002. This was May 17th.
Yeah, that's
It's
changed.
687,
Yeah, 687.
624.
Everybody's got a different
What
number.
he gave us last week said
687, 624.
624,475.
Faye, is that with the 2% that he was gonna decrease on what he had added on?
He had decreased the 2%, except I think he had to do, what, the salaries,
Yeah.
right?
He said he was gonna do it,
Yeah.
and did he?
His
Is that
final, his
number-
final was 624,475 in his last budget.
What date was that, Ted?
I took it off the
Last
magic
meeting.
sheet from.
2 weeks ago?
The
When he was
sheets.
here.
Yeah.
The
2 weeks
sheets.
ago.
Yeah, that's the one that he gave us last, when
Yeah.
he was here.
What was that
How many
number?
papers?
620?
624,475.
Okay. And that was the one he needed to take that 2% off.
That's,
He had
right.
added the 2% for
But he also,
inflation.
he also took some other things out of that, for that number too.
Yeah, he did.
But that was, I got that from the sheets, the Google Sheets thing from Faye's computer. That's right, I downloaded this
Yeah,
thing.
the academy tuition.
He dropped, right,
But
Yeah.
I think on Google Sheets, it's still at the 6,000. It hasn't been updated on there.
Yeah, he came up to my office today to try to do budget stuff, and I didn't have
so
Yeah.
it wasn't 624 then?
I'm not
No.
sure, I'll follow up with him.
Okay,
for
No,
his-
because you'd get another, was what did I, 2,940.
What was the reduction, Ted, that you
This-
discussed?
14,000,
You want to reduce it 14,000?
right.
And where was the reduction coming from? What were you suggesting?
Simply the difference in salary for the new deputy chief.
I see the 624 was the salaries, but there was 63,000 for the administrative costs for the office and all that.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
sorry
where-
about that. Yep,
The 687
Yeah.
became the
Right.
overall police department budget.
right, you're right. I'm sorry, Matt, you're right. I
No.
forgot that.
Now, them salaries, the only one negotiable on them salaries is Amy's and Jim's, correct, for the rest of the union positions?
They're all negotiable because we're negotiating the contract right now.
No, Amy and Jim
Non-union.
are non-union,
I thought you said the only ones that
are
weren't.
non-negotiable.
I misunderstood
Oh,
what you
yeah,
said.
I'm sorry. There it is. I screwed up.
Yes.
73 is the
That-
number.
I
Okay.
just want to get clear of what cut took place there.
Right.
The deputy chief,
670,
he would like to
wait a minute.
reduce.
Yeah, it was what? It was 74,000 something, and you reduced it to what?
14,
Has the,
the 6182.
Okay.
That's still a 9%.
has the chief had any input on
And what
No,
about the
no, I
You
think
get the,
his only comment was that
administrative assistant?
that was
They plug
the
her in
wishes
for
of the
2%.
board.
Right.
That should be-
No, that was
Budgeted
taken out, I
accordingly.
think,
it? Right.
from here.
So I guess it,
Is that on there?
that's selectmen.
Didn't we say the salary, they're in contract
Oh, yeah, they
negotiations
plugged it
Right
right
now,
now?
for the union.
For the union,
That's-
right?
Yeah, which would
Yeah.
exclude the deputy
We're not
chief
giving up
and
what we
the
know.
administrative
No,
assistant.
So
Like
you take
Richie
that
just said,
2%
yeah.
off
Yeah.
that.
that's a good one. All right, I didn't see that, Richard, good. Hey, we're gonna get together on that budget.
Okay,
Got another point
But there's
here.
that 2%, I don't know how
Right,
much
you're right,
that will.
Claire. I've got it right here. Where the hell is
Because he said he was gonna reduce those.
yeah, he may have
Yeah.
on his own sheet
Mhm.
and not updated
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah,
He came up and wanted to go over it, but him and I both, when I called him, he was gone, so
yeah,
we
it?
weren't
Okay.
able to meet
Well,
up.
I'll see you with that. We
Sure.
can work this out.
Okay.
Okay,
yeah. So that's why I had notes. Yeah.
getting closer. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the fuel. We've spent $54,000 on fuel out of the $100,000 budgeted.
Hmm.
So at 11-month level. I checked at the 10-month level, at the 9-month level, and we had 45,000. If you upgrade that to 12 months, it comes out 60,000. I'd like to put our fuel budget in for 65,000, okay, which would be an 8% increase over what we're spending this year. I think that 100,000 number is way too big. It might have been good back at $4 a gallon for gas, but now it needs to be looked at.
Has the select board recently had any fuel bids? Are you rebidding the fuel
That, I
We
don't
did that a
believe,
little bit Heather just recently awarded that in November, was it?
no, in August, the other fuel did, but town
Yeah.
fuel is state price.
Yeah.
Those particular tanks, this is diesel fuel for the ambulances. I don't know if they do gasoline too, I forget, but, this is not heating fuel.
This is the vehicle fuel?
This is
Oh,
vehicle fuel, and that comes off state bid.
Okay.
So, whatever state bid price is the best price for those particular things. So no, the answer would be that has not been bid. But the fuel bid should be going out soon.
So I thought on a budget, we'd put something other than 100,000 this time, maybe 65,000, and see how that works out.
And that fuel is for ambulances and DPW and all of that, just so you know, fire,
Okay.
that's all the town's vehicles.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if it's gasoline, though, is there gasoline too down there?
It's for everything, parks, common, police, cemeteries.
Yeah, any fuel, fuel,
Cruisers.
yeah. So, with those changes, I show negative 148.65 with your current changes. And I changed the library, gave them the $1,300
right.
to be able
Yeah.
to maintain
Yeah,
certification.
oh, that makes
I
sense.
figure
Yep.
with all the slap we have in a fuel budget, we can give them
Yeah.
$1,300 to
That's good.
keep themselves whole. So I guess at that point, we've got some room here, if we have to. $7.9 million start, okay, there's some room there. It's a matter of just coming up with a final number that we wanna put
But we
in.
have to, one thing to keep in mind is that that's still keeping the school budget at 4%.
Yeah.
That's not their number, that's our number.
Right.
I have a question on the regional IT agreement. Where do we show Rutland's portion of the IT expenses? Because right now we're showing full salary on our budget, but no income from Rutland's board.
We should only be paying a third.
I didn't know what the agreement terms
You know
were,
what,
so
that's
I
a
just
good-
threw in a number
that's a
of like
good catch.
50%.
We
So I
should-
threw it down at that other funds thing on my own little spreadsheet I'm playing with.
We should be paying a third of that salary back, because Rutland pays 2/3, because a third of his time supposedly goes to dispatch, a third goes to the town of Rutland. A third
Yes,
comes here.
All right, I hadn't read it up yet, so I wanted to double check that too. So with my numbers, throwing it in, I think at 50%, I just showed 48,000 coming in as additional revenues.
Good.
Because that's 127,000 or 96,000, whatever the number I
But
pulled.
hold on, the IT, one thing about that is, I think Adam had put in for, to have not an assistant, but someone else working with him in his
Actually, let me
budget.
take it back. The 48,000 is only 50% of the 96,000 salary line item. None of the stuff below that may be very specific, like our website consultant and stuff like that. It was just salaries that I had split it 50% and say, hey, here's a ballpark
So
of
when he submitted
potential
that
additional revenue.
budget, there's two different items. Okay, for the IT, there's the salary, and then there's maintenance, or whatever you wanna call it, computer software, or whatever.
Yeah, it's different. I think he's got like different license agreements and
Right.
things like that he's gotta maintain. And I did wanna follow up on the agreement a little bit to figure out commitments on like with the public safety, Barry approved to put additional money into the public safety, and part of that was IT. And I don't think it was just equipment, right? It was some of his time and labor also factored into that number.
I'm not necessarily sure about that.
Okay, well, I was just curious because I understood that Rutland did some things like that too, and I was just trying to figure out how the agreement defines things beyond operations and maintenance. Is it like you ask for a budget number from Adam and what he's gonna do, and then we agree to allow him to use that time if he's not
I think
already-
that's what it is. If he has 13 hours a week scheduled for Barry, let's just say however it's divided up, and we choose to use those 13 hours on him at the new public safety building, that's how we choose. Rutland chose to utilize him at their school for that project.
Alright, so I just would like to better understand that, that's
Well,
all.
you guys should have. the
I just haven't
agreement
read
up
that
in your
agreement
office. We don't
in
have
detail
that.
yet.
Yeah, we have.
Now, what did you have for his salary on that? I have
The
80.
salary line item was originally 96,000, so I just chose 50% of that as income from Rutland. So I added down at the bottom where we have the different additional revenues.
Yeah,
I threw in a line item just saying Rutland Regional IT Assessment and just put in 48,000 as 50% of that salary. But it sounds like he was saying it's actually closer to 66%.
but I had 81,000
So-
for regional salary.
The salary would be split in thirds, the 96,000.
Right, so we should be getting 64,000 if we,
Right.
in revenue.
All right.
Why does our budget sheet show 81,000 for his salary?
That was his, that's what it was before he asked for the additional person to help with.
Yeah.
So you're looking at next year's.
See, they're not, the Google Sheets I don't think are being updated by the
No.
people,
No, the Google sheet, at least the one I
because they're
have.
different.
The one I'm looking
Oh.
at is,
It's, you
Because
gotta
I
look-
found a couple
it says
today that,
127,500 on the sheet, I just
Oh,
opened
I
it
don't
right
have
now.
that.
What'd yours say, Matt?
Okay, yeah, on the
Total.
fiscal year 18 second request column for
Yeah.
IT, the total is 127,500, but just the salary costs lists 96,000. And I didn't know of the stuff below, how
That's
much
all
of that
of-
is just very specific.
That is just Barry.
Okay, so it's the 96,000, so he can get the helper, part-timer or intern or whatever he said he would get. We would be getting 64,000 from Rutland, and we would be actually only paying 32,000 of that.
Well,
But so to show it in the budget, we just put the whole 127,500, and then we show the additional revenue from Rutland's IT assessment at 64,000 as an income.
but that extra helper that he's asking for, is that included in the salaries?
Yes.
Yes, it was originally, like you said, 81,000. He's looking for 15,000 more a year to get a helper.
Because
So,
you can't split that in thirds.
The helper is not gonna be split in thirds, he's going to be
That would be
Barry,
our
that
own
person will be only
responsibility.
for Barry.
Oh,
yeah, we can split it into thirds, because he can use that helper in Rutland too.
Rutland,
It's just like dispatch saying they need an extra dispatcher.
Rutland doesn't wanna fund that. They can't afford to fund it.
We may not be able
Well, I understand, but maybe we need to talk, because they're saying similar things on dispatch and kind of saying we just gotta deal with their budget on dispatch. There's a balance here.
Back to pencil and paper,
We
Charlie.
are not getting the support we need here because he's unable to meet the overall demand on both towns. So he needs the extra
Yeah,
person, so
yeah.
how do we get that?
You
So it
need to-
sounds like we need to have a meeting with Rutland.
yeah,
We may need to.
Okay.
we should,
I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm not even saying we gotta force it, it's just,
Faye,
But it should be
we've gotta
split,
add
yeah.
under
Because
the
the
line
it
problems
shouldn't just be
are,
our
the
guy.
revenue.
the problems are
Yeah.
everywhere. They're in
This-
Rutland, they're here, everywhere.
Either the town or
Oh,
That's all. So maybe we just need to see if we can do a quick meeting with them somehow.
So on the next one, we should add that line. so-
I'm gonna add it right now.
Yeah, good.
I had a couple other thoughts about potential other revenues, I'm not sure and these are, really, I don't know yet, so these are, forgive me if I'm, but I noticed on the sewer and the water commission budgets, they show an expense to pay to the town for their billing and collection fees.
Yep,
7,500 for each of those enterprise accounts will pay the town back.
yep.
but what we don't show is it actually coming back. So what it looks like on our overall budget is $15,000 of additional appropriation costs, but it should actually show up down below as additional income, because it's really just
No
an
reimbursement.
interdepartmental transfer. So it shouldn't look like it's costing us $15,000 more. It's just moving from one account to another.
It should be a wash.
So it shows in their budget like, we gotta spend 7,500 because they gotta show it for enterprise purposes. But we should show it coming back into the general fund down below, I'm thinking.
Another one.
So that's another
Another one.
7,500 each, so it'd be 15,000
Another
there.
line then down there, Matt.
Two more, one for sewer and one
Yeah,
for
but-
water. That's,
Isn't
it
that
may be
included
somewhere
in
else
this?
and I don't know. Gene might know it's more,
I
maybe
think
jumbled
it's
up in a bigger
included in
line
that.
item.
I don't know that.
So it was just a question
Because
because I
that's
don't know if
there.
it's,
Yeah,
I don't know.
That-
coming from the sewer.
Well, but we
Is it included, Fay, in the
anticipated.
sewer
receipt.
funding anticipated receipts?
I bet you it isn't.
I don't know.
We gotta,
That may
we gotta
not
check
be,
that out. Gotta find out
uh,
what's in that anticipated
yeah.
receipts column.
It might be in there, but it might not. I
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
think I've ever seen a breakdown of
I
that.
added that in, so I'll check it.
Yeah,
It probably
could
is
be
part of what
there.
keeps showing up in free cash, so I don't wanna necessarily take away from what's showing up in free cash, but,
Well,
you know what I mean, part of the numbers that show up in
yeah,
I mean,
random
it's
free
gotta be in
cash
the
might
right,
be
it's
that.
gotta be in there sometime. It can't be one way or the other,
Yeah.
right?
So,
yeah.
Okay.
and then, we just mentioned it upstairs, if we do proceed with the regional building commissioner, the other town assessments, right now, I have an estimated receipt for the regional building commissioner assessments of another 34,000 coming in.
Well,
Because
it
that
wouldn't
was
be-
originally a $75,000 budget line item, and when it broke out, I added up the other four towns' contributions and it added to 34,000.
I thought we amended
That
that
would
last
come-
time. I thought we only turned out a portion last time.
In here is the building department budget as we operate right now.
The 75,000 or whatever she submitted.
79,348.
Yeah,
Oh,
but that
79.
includes, that's the whole office, that's the whole department, so.
What I did though is I went to her email that showed the breakout for the assessments of the four towns. And I just grabbed the assessments that they said for Hardwick, New Braintree, and Petersham, and added those three numbers up, and that came to the 34,000.
So
She's saying this is what
currently-
these three towns would have to contribute to be a part
So
of
it's
the
only
four-town
a
agreement.
$10,000 savings to that budget then. Because her line item is 45,441. So if you're saying Barry will own 34,000, it's only $10,000 savings. Are you following me?
I'm just saying it's $34,000 that wasn't accounted for yet. Because the line item originally in your
It
overall
was.
budget, she was showing
It was
79,000.
because we pay her a salary right now, we don't share her, we pay a full salary right now. So what we would do is then share her salary,
We would still show the building department as her full salary, just like with the regional IT. But then you show an income from the other four towns to offset it. As an assessment. So just like where we
So-
put in the 64,000 for regional IT coming back from Rutland,
Right.
we put in the
Yes.
34,000 coming back from Petersham, Hardwick,
Yeah,
and New Braintree
That
as
would-
another
that would-
income.
That would be clearer.
And then the building department budget, which is our budget to manage, will stay the same on that line item.
Yeah, that makes sense to do it that way, I think. I think so.
no,
yeah,
it
and
would
it gets
change.
receipts.
Why would it change?
What is her new salary gonna be?
It's not changing.
So
She's
gonna-
our employee 100%.
$45,000, she's gonna work in 4 towns? If it's not changing, for $45,000, she's working in 4 towns. At 28 hours a week.
I'm basing it on the budget numbers I saw. Let me double check.
Do you follow what
She
I'm
would have to
asking you?
resubmit that if it's different. But then it would just change the building department number. So maybe that does have to go up.
That's what you're
But-
saying 90-something thousand, right?
No,
So she's
No.
gonna work,
I
Oh,
must be missing something here. I think we're,
Come look at this.
I
let's see.
can't move right now, my cup is killing me.
All right, what she's showing here was originally she's showing a total appropriation for her department at 75,000 on this little spreadsheet she's showing.
Per department,
Building department,
okay.
in the email. She shows 45,000 of that is Barry's contribution, and then 18,000 is Hardwick, 3,700 is New Braintree, and 7,500 is Peterson. So when I took the last three columns and added them up, it's 34,000 coming back. Now, if that original 75,000 is different because of salary costs, it may mean those other three numbers will also be different depending on, because if it's salaries, all four towns are sharing that evenly. And then that was the other thing we
I
talked
don't think
about.
it's shared evenly, it's
Proportion.
shared
Well,
by.
it's
The
proportionally.
34,000.
I just meant that, right, we're not, exactly.
What is their
Shared
total,
proportionally.
what is their total salary?
I don't know.
Paying
We don't know
34,000.
that.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out.
How many hours is she gonna work?
She's getting 56,000 and her
34,000.
part-time, 5-hour-a-week
Salary.
person is getting
So her salary
5,000.
should be reduced by 34,000.
All I'm saying is
Showing on this
she
chart
works
here
in
that
Barry
she sent in the
28.
email saying these are
That's
the
fine.
final numbers we expect.
If she's working, she's working 28
Um,
hours.
61,000.
It does look like she did
20
include
hours
some
in Barry.
unemployment and some
Uh-huh.
regional retirement, so she may have already covered
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Because we just briefly talked
Is
upstairs
part of
about
that
that.
gonna
So that'd be a
the other
15,000 increase.
So it looks like we're gonna get about 34,000 back from the other three towns. So it'll be another source of income.
How many hours is she gonna work a week?
It's scheduled right now for 26 hours in Barry, 10 in Hardwick, 2 in New Braintree, and 5 in Peterson.
Okay.
Okay, so,
And that's a combination of her hours and the 5 hours of the part-timer.
what I was just saying is, on this budget, it's 28 hours in Barry.
Right, for that 45,000, so we're losing 2
So,
hours and
so
paying the
we're,
same
her,
amount.
this budget, under
Yeah,
those
so
conditions,
she got
has
a
to go
raise.
down. Okay,
Well, what
What
Matt's
is-
saying
what
is,
is her-
what Matt's saying is her projection isn't 45,900.
Yeah,
Her projection now with the helper is 61,000. But after that 61,000, the other communities will pay us 30-something.
yeah,
Yeah,
34, he
but they're
said.
not, they're not gonna
34?
pay you unless you show she working 40 hours on the building budget. Okay, if she's only working
Yeah, so we
28
have
hours
to amend.
On
the
her
building.
line item, it says she's gonna provide 35 hours,
in Barry,
just 35 hours.
in Barry.
No.
Total.
That's with the assistant.
And the
26
assistant's gonna
in
add another
Barry.
5,
Okay.
so it'll be a total of 40 between the two.
Okay, so this budget will go to 26, and this number will go down, right? 'Cause that's all, this is the Barry budget.
That number will be
Yes,
partially
I believe so,
offset by
because that number, what's the total number on the bottom side?
This is 28 hours. If she's gonna work 35 hours, you gotta put 35 in here,
Right, with the
okay?
new
We
number.
gotta up
Yeah.
our budget and then help pay for it down
Right.
below
Then you
by
put
the
the
other towns.
receipts
We
in.
gotta match.
Yeah.
We can't just show 28
This
hours
budget
here,
doesn't show her.
35 hours.
No, it
Yeah.
shows just her working here,
How
not
much
changing
does it show her getting paid?
20,
45,900.
Okay, because this
45.
one shows 56,000.
How
So that
many
covers the
hours?
35 hours.
Right.
Okay, but I'm saying,
She's doing 35
It's gotta
hours
be
at
changed on
31.21 an
Yeah.
hour on this
So we
one
need-
here.
okay, so I'll
That's
meet
what they're
with
not
Brianna
changing.
tomorrow
Remember
and
budget
update
sheet
our
Changing those
sheet
Google Sheets.
with
Yeah.
this. And when, so
And
when
it
is
was
this
supposed
set
to be.
in place? Is this a done deal or no?
Well, we're just, I think Phil was waiting for Jim Baird to do his final checkoff to say it looks like we got our bases covered.
I mean, you think
And then
it's
we'll
gonna,
present
we
it
can do that, no
Before all the
problem.
boards and vote.
Okay.
I think
I'll
we're that
just-
close.
I'll try to meet up with Brianna to update our sheet.
Right.
So
And then-
what
Yeah.
she's proposing, I
So
think.
we
Yeah.
need to do-
Yeah,
left
we
this
need to
alone
have
because
that.
it's not a done deal. So
Well,
we'll
I-
put in the proposals.
But I mean, if it
Yeah.
looks
We're
like it's gonna be
raise her
going, we should
hours
do
to
it.
35, her pay to 56, and add an assistant in for 5 hours at
Right.
$5,000.
Right.
For the year.
Right,
So we need to add both those items, and then
Right.
take the receivables from the other towns
gotcha.
and put those into our receivables. So we're gonna go up
Yeah.
$16,000 here, we're gonna take 34 more in, so we're gonna have a net benefit of $18,000
Right.
when it's done.
Yeah.
But yes, we have to change the receivables as well as the expenditures here.
I don't know how it worked, but whatever budget she presented in that email is actually 4,000 less than what she's showing on your budget right now.
Yeah,
And you're getting more for it.
Right.
I don't know how she did it, so talk to Brianna.
yeah.
So she
but I-
may have other changes if it's only 4,000 less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
think we
wait,
can deal with
her, the agreement is only for building, not electrical and plumbing
Oh, right.
inspections. So
Right.
she's got So there's gonna be like 4,000 more dollars that bring you back to the 79. So what she did is she took out the plumbing and electrical inspector from our budget
Yeah,
and presented to the other 4 towns, we're at 75,000. So she's got her numbers right in both places. We're just not sharing the plumbing and electrical inspector with the other 3 towns.
That's all I
So
thought.
she
That's
pulled that
why
out of the
those-
budget when she said,
Yeah.
this is what your assessment would
Yeah.
be.
I
So
think
she's
we
got
have
her-
that now.
Her dollars are accurate somehow.
All right, I'll work on her with that.
I'll leave it at somehow.
Yeah. No, I think we understand now what you getting at. I think it's gonna work.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that. I think you're right, there's some details in there that are a little, but either way, we're still expecting 34,000 in income.
Yeah.
I don't know all the other stuff, but.
Well, we'll get the lines in there and get the stuff at the bottom. We have to make sure we get that right. Anything else? Bernie,
I've got a
desires?
couple of
Go ahead.
things. Now, the tree warden, the shade tree management, according to Jean's last runoff, the budget there was 7,500. They've only spent 1,300. Couldn't that be reduced a little if that's, you know, there's $6,000 left in that budget.
Yeah, that's,
Trees
that
were
would be a
cut
basic
back.
question.
You know,
You
they
know.
use that for?
They'd use it to cut the trees. If they have to hire someone to cut the trees, I know I almost wanted you to open up that window. That would be a Jason question.
Also, Matt,
He's the tree
$1,000 of that has to go into an account for maintenance, because we have a regional bucket truck and chipper we share with
Okay,
Paxton,
right.
Rutland,
Yeah.
Auburn.
I get you, that's
For
part of that.
$1,000, we have to
5,000.
supply a year towards the maintenance of that equipment.
There's a lot of costs like that.
And that
Voted
usually
on
comes
Yeah.
out of the green water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
add
think
it.
it's
The
okay.
tree warden usually
I think there's.
Yeah,
tries
I
not
think
to
we should cut
spend
it, 5,000.
his money throughout the year unless
That's
an
my thought.
emergency comes up, because if he does spend it, and then say,
Yep.
the first week of June, we have a tornado,
Right.
and he needs some money, he could, that's how they used to do it in the past, whether how he's doing it. But it could probably be cut now, seeing we have that regional bucket truck and chipper,
Mm-hmm.
and all the men down there have been trained to properly run that equipment. So you probably could cut back on some of that budget. My
Say,
opinion.
cut it to 5,000.
It used to be 5,000.
Yeah, it used to be for
And we
years.
bumped it up. But then this regional truck come into play, so it's definitely something we could
We'd
look
have to
at.
pull any rental costs in.
You know,
if
still
ever
they,
needed or something.
you know, they get a tricky tree like over the wires, or the town's tied up, or don't have access to the truck with the shed, then they would have to hire out somebody.
Do you think five would be a good number?
So it's,
They usually do that.
Yeah,
it's a good one to have.
Why don't we
You wanna
do
cut
that?
it?
yeah.
The 5?
Okay?
Either, I don't know, cut it, or do you wanna actually possibly put that into a reserve fund for
No.
more
No, cut
general
it this year.
purpose decision-making? The reserve fund, mind you, requires your guys' approval to use it.
I would
Yeah, but we
go-
not
haven't
just
had it
us.
for years.
Reserve
No.
one?
Yeah.
We don't
It's-
have a reserve fund.
Yeah, you can't.
I was saying we could create one.
It doesn't
We used to
change
have one,
anything.
but,
A reserve fund is a fund that you can use for emergencies
Yeah,
and unexpected.
we had
So
one.
if
We
you
haven't
cut
had-
the tree warden.
we haven't had
and
it
then
for
like
what,
he's saying,
5 years?
If we,
6?
Something comes up where you need to get rid of trees that you didn't have the money for,
I would-
the reserve fund is there for you guys to
I
review
would
and
say the
decide if
only
you think it's
caution with that
inappropriate.
is,
Just throwing it out there, because I agree, if we need it, we need it. If we don't, then it just becomes free cash.
the only,
Yeah.
caution I would say with reserve fund, if you look into communities that do use reserve fund, it kinda lets people be like, I could overspend.
Yep.
We have
Yeah.
reserve fund.
That's
why-
why we cut it.
That's why we
Well,
cut it out.
We
If
used
were
to have
do it, you would have
50,000
to
on
write
it.
a nice detailed reasons of what it's about.
But
It's
it
not
still allows
about
people not to stick to the
mismanagement,
budget.
it's about emergencies unforeseens, not mismanagement.
If we had a balanced budget, maybe, but we don't.
I,
How about
So
a
right
bond?
now, we need to cut
How about
whatever
a
we
bond?
can.
I do understand, I'm trying to.
That was
think
just
things
one I
through.
noticed.
Huh?
which one?
I've got another one.
Oh, so I moved that to $5,000?
Yeah, I would.
I still want to discuss the undiscussable, this is the school budget.
Well, I've got another one we might be able to.
Well, I'm, straightforward, straight business talk. We have a projected total revenue increase in this town this year of $230,000 over last year. The school last year held 54% of our budget. I would allow them 54% of that revenue, which is a 2.42% increase to their budget. That will solve our problems, and that will certainly not give everyone else the same increases they'll get, but it will free up a little money to do some more things in town other than just the school. I think for far too long, we've been far too giving to the school, and as the school is upheld at a very high standard, the rest of our town is slowly decaying as our roads are showing and some other things in town. And to be looking for scrounging $1,000 here and there for things, I think is almost insulting to a lot of people in town that look at the money we continually flow towards the school. We listened to the Monty Tech delivery of their school budget, and they explained how the state says we can afford $3.5 million on our school, yet we're spending $4.5. And Monty Tech responsibly makes their budget in guidance from the state and what we can afford and what we can do. And probably because it's a regional school, they don't do that. But the reality is we're spending $1 million more in the school than the state thinks we should be, than we can afford. And our budget and the scrounging we're doing shows that. And I would like to, at the very least, bring them back to a reasonable increase this year and target them to level fund in the future. And other departments have had to make cuts. We're not staffing that police officer, the last position in the police force because of this still. And not only are we not staffing the position, we're talking about taking some money back that they intended to give to the deputy chief. And the school's not having that same issue. And I think if they're asked to look, I think they can tighten the belt, and then they can take some of the more wish list items off and find a way in their very large budget to deal with this. And I'd like this board in Evelyn to take a serious consideration that giving them 54% of the increase that this town had in revenues is, I think, very equitable and quite fair to the rest of this town. To give, I mean, it's already more than half of our budget, and we're gonna give them the equal portion of the increase in budget, not a greater portion that makes us deficit fund other departments. I don't think that's right, and I think that practice needs to stop.
No question. I'm curious about what the increase of students at the Stetson School has been over the last 5 years or 7 years or something, and how has that affected the school budget therefore? And if there is a sizable increase in students, is there a way for the town to negotiate with the Stetson School in some fashion?
And I've done a lot of thought about that too, and I think that the Stetson School, that's a concern that the school district and the school committee needs to address, and certainly bring us possible solutions if they need our intervention to go to the Senate and to the House and bring it up to the state to try to get some sort of assistance or help in how it's being managed. That should go that way, but it doesn't change our town budget, and it doesn't change the fact that, you know, if this is your home, you can say, well, I'd really like to have this new addition this year. We'll forget about the water bill and the car payment and eating this week, and we'll just build a new addition on our house. You wouldn't take your largest asset and start giving it 70–80% of your income because you couldn't do it. And our town cannot afford to let this percentage of our total assets, our total revenues, increase to the school to the point that they're getting, what, 90% and we have 10 to live on? It's unreasonable. It has to end somewhere, and I think 54% of our budget is quite enough. And regardless of what happens with Stetson, we need to find a way to work with that without sinking the rest of the town on it.
Charlie's got a question there, Jim.
Is there a way to know the increase in students in Stetson School over the years?
Yeah, check with somebody, I guess. I'll ask the school people.
Only certain ones go to the school,
You think it's
though.
been fairly stable? Because the buildings are popping up like mushrooms over there.
Yeah, those buildings aren't for students.
They're not for the students?
No, it's
I
for- the
heard
new
that
ones are for
the new building they're building,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
is
What do you say?
the new building that they're gonna building, was the story I got, was it's gonna be more like a foster home. Because the state has no place to put foster kids. They don't have
Right,
enough
you know,
foster parents. So Stetson is building this. To me, it's almost like an orphanage type that we used to
Believe me, I
have.
don't wanna crush the
You know,
kids by any
That's what
means.
they used to be. Now it's a foster home.
But if the foster kids are there, is that impacting the school?
If they attend the school.
What's
If
that?
they go to the school, a lot of those kids can't assimilate into public schools. If they go to the school, then yes, it affects the school, and I believe this 4 or 5, it's not a lot. I think the biggest
I think it's
strain on this,
35.
on the town
I
is
think
the
Maureen
fact
said
that our
35.
police and fire and
Yes.
ambulance
Mhm.
are there almost daily, and they don't pay anything to the town
Right,
for
so
it.
that's, okay, so that is a factor impacting the town.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we could quantify that and use that as something to go and have a conversation with whoever they are.
Dispatch was able to start doing that with two means. One, the way Rob was doing with the ambulance,
Yeah.
fire calls being tracked now, so he can identify if they're getting called there
Yeah.
and how often.
Mhm.
And I believe police
And the police
have the
can
same
do
way
it
of doing
too,
it now.
yeah.
They can say how many
They
times.
tried
you-
to talk.
The police always
Mhm.
could.
They
And the
tried.
Oh, right,
ambulance,
so we-
ambulance is the only one that was not tracked.
And
Okay.
if we could look at the percentage increase over X number of years
The,
and say, if this is the pattern, where is it going?
the one thing on the
You had a
schools,
very good point that you brought up. You did. Yeah, I'm sorry.
the one thing Maureen had said prior, Maureen Marshall, about the schools and students coming from Stetson, whether they're the foster kids or not, is once that program, and once they're placed in our local school and that is their placement, not a temporary school, then the actual town that they came from that put them in Stetson pays Quabbin to teach them. So they're no longer a financial burden in the same way. I'm not saying they're not a financial burden, because depending on the money that comes from the other town may not cover all the costs. I'm just saying that there is at least some form of income they receive if they actually get permanently placed in Quabbin.
So, okay, so if that money goes to the school, but we're still paying the schools, but the police and fire issues are not addressed with the increase in that
Right.
particular population. I
Exactly.
mean, it would be the same thing as looking at Grandview Terrace, how much is Grandview Terrace? You know what I mean? I'm not crunching on the kids by any means, but if there's some other place where they're managing the money of their organization, we have to manage our organization as well, so.
Yeah.
I think we're someplace around 2,400 students in the Quabbin School District. I think we average a little over 200 per grade, so 2,500 students. 4 or 5 from Stetson, or even 10. Doesn't really significantly affect that
I
much.
think
very
there's-
significant.
I think there's like 30-something.
No, it depends on the program they go into.
35
Right.
No,
It's
it's very.
There's a special education program that costs go
Yeah,
right up through the roof.
It is.
Well, Maureen did say that almost every student from Stetson is more than just a regular education.
Well, that's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
They do
But the new
require
foster kids might not be
evaluations,
quite the same.
Medical, psychological
Yeah.
education.
Exactly.
And that, but was, and she couldn't give us a
That
number
should
of
be
what that
in-house
costs.
for them.
Well, that, right.
Which really should
It's
be.
more determining the proper educational program for the student.
It's
Right.
very, 2 points, I got 2
But in
things.
the past, I was with one of those organizations up in Newburyport, and that was our staffing. You know, our organization paid for those services.
It's very significant because the enrollment is going down and
It's
it's
similar.
the number, percentage-wise, the number of children we're sending there is going up. We're going up faster than the other towns. If we
Yeah,
have
because-
100 kids, and this year we've got 43 from Barry, Stetson throws in whatever it is, and the enrollment goes down, we're going up, and we're going up disproportionately up. So whether they're in special ed or whatever, it doesn't matter. We're going up a lot. The other point I just want to make is that the selectmen will be meeting next week with Maureen up at her office. I think before this meeting, whether, we probably won't have any answers, but some of us is doing a little legwork on behind the scenes and, you know, like we always have to do. So there may be a little flexibility, and I have some numbers. If we wanted approximately, our assessment cut 110,000. The school district would have to cut 258, almost 259. And, you know, you can kind of use that as a rough, that's what I use 43%.
And what's that, a 4%? Is that at 4%?
No, I just take the whole number. I take what we need to balance our budget. If we need 150,000, what do they gotta cut to make 150,000 for us?
I have a
What does that
question.
put their assessment at though? What percentage?
What?
What percentage would that put the school's assessment to vary?
Oh, I don't, it would lower it. I don't know what
We
it would
didn't
be.
work it that way.
I'm just
Oh.
trying to bring it
We
in.
just worked the number, dollar
Oh, okay.
number.
I just take the number. I'm saying, we need to cut 150,000. What have they gotta cut to give
For
us?
them?
Okay.
Yes.
That's the way I
If
do
we
it.
went with
Also,
their
she's
number.
saying that all these other towns can't afford, like, oh, well.
Well,
And
yeah,
kind of
but
like we're paying for the other towns.
we can't pay for the other towns.
Right.
We have
We're
a
not.
contract. We cannot
No,
pay
we're
for
not.
the
No,
other.
the Department of Education has
I
a
like that, Charlie, you're cutting them 3,000 more than me.
formula,
You're cutting
has
them
a
3,000.
formula.
That's the way I figure it, but if you go in and you
That's how
ask
it works
it
out.
the way you did, you won't get it.
I
Right,
can't,
yeah.
They assess,
Yeah,
the
that-
state
that'd put
assesses
them
each
one
town
person
based
talking
on
about
the
it.
level, so they can't
Yeah, that's,
assess us.
that's what I was, that's an equity.
That's the way I
You
figure
say
it. We
this is
figure it
what we can
differently.
afford to pay for.
We come up with the same area.
Well, I understand.
Okay, okay.
so
Did that?
the Department of
She
Education.
said something.
No, we can't hear because everybody's talking at
Yeah,
the same
so many
time,
conversations.
so nobody can
The
hear anything.
Department of Education has a formula, and they tell the school rather, how the formula works. So
Right.
even though if you looked on paper, Hubbardston, let's just say, skyrocketed with kids, our assessment may be higher. It's not, it's a weird formula, and if you ask Maureen, for years, they've been asking the Department of Education to fix this formula because it really is not good for the small towns like us. It may work down in Boston or, you know, Cambridge, yeah, where they're regional and it works out that way. Out here, it doesn't work the same. You know, for example, they're asking us for 5.15% increase, Hubbardston's seeing 1%.
So if I ask her, okay, well, what if we just say, this is how much we can give you, and he says, well, then they just gotta fix it. They gotta figure it out. It's like, yes, and then.
And that's what Charlie was just
Right.
saying. He's saying, we're gonna, he's showing we need this much saved.
I know that's what they do in other towns, like the finance committee will say, you can get a 2.5% assessment, figure it out. And
Well, I
I
think-
Figure it out.
hate having to level fund the school. I
Well,
hate
what
it. I have
Maureen will
kids
come
in
back
school,
with is,
hate it,
she'll
but-
explain what the overall cut
Yeah.
is to her whole budget. We may be asking like, oh, 135,000,
Right.
that's easy.
Yeah,
But it could
but
be
it could affect,
a lot
yeah.
on the bigger picture. But, you know, Greg was saying he thinks that we should only give the school 54% of our overall increase.
Yeah.
Or budget.
Well, right, that'd be keeping them at the same percentage of our budget they have.
If the school doesn't get a budget,
I just wanted to make a
Like
note
it's
that
Jones
on their
County
cherry sheet, it's showing that they have an $18 million net receipt
and say
for this year.
to the towns.
So just keep in mind, when it's talking about cutting 250,000,
Oh, that's.
it's in relation to 18 million, not the 5 million we're asking, or because it's not just what we're paying, it's also what the state is giving them. Their budget is much larger than the 5 million we're looking at, so when Charlie's talking about the 250,000 cut, he's still right. Where do you cut? But when you're talking about a budget that's 18 million per se, it doesn't always have to be teachers that get cut. And I know that's usually the first thing you hear is, well, I'm gonna have to cut programs and teachers.
It's
Well,
programs.
I know, I'm just saying, but that's
Programs.
usually the first thing they throw out. One of the things that I kind of agree with what Stephanie was saying and Greg a little bit, and even Charlie about, this is what we can handle, is you put it back on the school committee. Don't blame us for the school committee's decisions on how to budget that. We can tell them what, like Greg said, we're already trying to cut our public safety divisions first, because they're our biggest budgets. The first thing all right, how do we cut fire? How do we cut ambulance? How do we cut police? Those are not the first three things you should be cutting. You know what I, to a degree, I mean, yes, you gotta make sure everybody's sharpening their pencil. You don't just give away gifts. But we gotta do the same for schools. Sharpen your pencil. We did the same thing with the public safety building. We said capped at 3 million. It made them sharpen their pencils. We still had to go back for more money, but people really made that 3 million, they got everything they could out of that. Sometimes we all gotta have a reality check, and if you look at our year to year, this isn't gonna be the first year that this budget's gonna be tight. We've probably got a couple more years we're still gonna be working on.
I
We
think we've
can't
been in-
let them continue to grow unchecked.
We've been in the same seat since 2010.
Yeah, we've always.
When we made the major cut, when everybody cut 7 or 10% across the board,
Third of their budget.
yeah, a third of their budget,
2000.
we've been,
Yeah.
that was across the board, everybody had to cut. So some departments have gotten their budgets back up to what they were prior, some have not, some have, you know,
We've hired a lot more people in the last 4 or 5 years.
Mhm.
We've brought it back a tremendous amount.
correct, yeah. And
But they
some
use
departments were
them
able
deferred
to
maintenance and.
reconfigure themselves, you know, like the Board of Health. They cut out the town nurse, they have a per diem health agent now instead of a full-time health agent. They just reconfigured themselves and have adapted. But, so it hasn't changed, it's been the same this year, it's just, we've had a lot of staffing change, so we have a lot of new people looking at new budgets, creating new budgets, we have revenues that are down. So it's really just not working in our favor any which way we turn.
The one thing you have to watch out for the school, Faye knows what happened. We did say, this is it.
Yeah.
We can't give any more. I was chairman of the board at that time, and Maureen talked to me the night before town meeting, and she was okay with the number. So I thought, we're all set.
Yep.
Came to town floor. She moved that the school budget be voted on at the beginning, because she had another school to go to,
Another town meeting.
another
yeah.
town
So
meeting.
now we know her tactics.
Oh, we know-
And
we know
she
them pretty well.
took the difference in the budget from our free cash.
Yeah.
And the town voted for it. They went,
Another thing
and
you
it was a
gotta
big amount
remember,
of money.
Don't put her first.
when you ask for this cut, like Charlie did.
Well, I haven't asked, for. I'm
No.
just saying I go in with a series,
Right, well,
so I
okay.
know what,
The suggestion that Charlie had brought up, like to save us, what was it, 150,000? They would have to cut how much total up?
yeah, about 250 or
So
something.
when they go to do that, see, the school cannot just say, okay, we will cut out $150,000 to save the town of Barry. They have to cut their whole budget.
Right.
And as it's sitting right now, and as Fay had mentioned, the state formula, if they go to do that, they'll end up owing Hubbardston money, because Hubbardston right now only has a 1% increase.
Right.
Because of the enrollment, as Charlie stated earlier, and our meetings, remember when we
Yeah.
talked with her?
Yeah.
So for her to make that,
I know,
make
yeah.
that money up, she has to cut that whole budget. So now you have to spread that out to the other towns.
Yeah.
So you would be facing like Hubbardston, they have a 1% increase. So now you're gonna give them more, right? Because you're gonna cut the
Yeah,
budget.
they'd get a bigger, they'd
They'd
get more,
probably
and their
level-
assessment would go down.
It
And that's,
level fund.
So
I'm sure New Braintree and
I'm
Harvard.
sure
could use a
if
lot
you
of
folks are
money.
gonna go meet with her, which I think is a great idea.
yeah, so I think,
to,
yeah, like I was
she'll
saying, if
explain
they
it
cut
a lot
us,
better.
if they were to cut us 110,000, then their overall budget would have to be reduced 200, almost 200, call it 260. That's the way I figure it, and I just go in with a list of numbers saying, well, you know, geez, if you're gonna do this, we did it. You know.
One thing, when Richie and I went to see her,
Yeah.
Lee Walleman was there, and one of the school committee. It would be good to have a school committee person in there with you.
Hold on a minute, excuse me, Ted, can you hold on a minute over there? I'm trying to listen. Ted, thank you.
You're right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ted.
Oh, the only thing I'm saying would be good to make sure there's a school committee in there, because part of their job is supposed to be to look out for the quality of education and the cost. So it's good to have them at the meeting too.
Yeah,
Usually, a lot of times, that doesn't happen, but
yeah,
there
we
may
have
be
to
some-
remind her
Yeah.
that, when she knows, but then the school committee does, but, you know, they're only as solvent as their least solvent town. They're in this boat with us, I mean, one of the towns goes sinks and they're heading down with us, one way or another, regardless of what Department of Ed says, but,
Right.
you know, and I know the Department of Ed doesn't care about the rest of the town government. I heard the guy saw it in the paper when the Secretary of Education was out there, and he said, I don't really care about the fire department.
That's right.
Do you remember
I
that meeting?
remember that.
The roads, you know, it's like, okay, if that's the way you wanna be, but I don't think we wanna glorify it, that's for sure.
No, that wouldn't be good.
You can do what
We
you
just want
want,
some
and
consideration,
the
really.
residents of Berry who work at the school
What?
go to the meeting.
Yes.
And if the meeting is stacked right up the back, so it doesn't
Mhm.
matter what you say.
Right.
Mhm.
Yep.
You gotta talk to those people.
Anything else?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Call
Hold
for
on, hold on. Can I have you guys do minutes quick?
Ooh, sure.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
Another thing I
Just the
noticed.
ones to sign. There's a few sets in here.
I didn't hear
What are
you.
you doing here?
Just like that.
I didn't hear her.
Huh?
You can like my car.
I know, it's terrible.
It's coming.
That's
I think it's right up one between them.
Yeah, I don't know why those weren't approved.
Hmm.
Can't remember that far back.
Did you hear your Wi-Fi?
I didn't.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of Wednesday, March 15th, 2017, Tuesday, March 28th, 2017, and May 17th, 2017.
Second.
Four.
Aye.
Passed.
You have to re-motion to
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
Raining out, Charlie?
Hmm?
Is it raining out?